Hello, it's Michael E. Gerber speaking to you from Carlsbad, California. We at Radical U love to say, if you've got the will, we've got the way. Now, what in the world does that mean? If you've got the will to learn, we've got the way. If you've got the will to organize your small company so that it works beyond belief better than most companies on the planet, we've got the way. And we've developed that way over 40 years of working on small business, not just in small business, to create some of the most spectacular small companies on the planet. We can do that with you. But now with Radical U, we can do that in a way never made possible before. Not only can you afford it, but you can actually do it. And we're committed to seeing that it works there where you are, there where you live, there where you're hungry for doing something that gives you more than what you're getting today. Just join us at Radical U, and you'll discover, hands down, the most absolutely spectacular process for internalizing the best held secrets of growth, of management, of leadership, of results ever produced on this planet. Yes, I'm Michael E. Gerber, inviting you to join us at Radical U for an enterprise experience you've simply never had before. The story of Radical U. It's been said that the climb of a giant mountain is very much similar to the creation of a great growing enterprise, such as Apple was for Steve Jobs. In our work over the past 40 years, with tens of thousands of small business owners, many of whom grew to become great entrepreneurs, we've discovered that the climb of a great mountain is less than an interesting metaphor and more closely aligned with the physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional reality of the two. Climbing great mountains takes guts, determination, preparation, a host of seemingly unnatural skills, and the will essential not only to start the climb, but even more important, to finish it. Such is identically the same with the creation of a great growing company. This is the story of Radical U, the story of a great growing company whose life is committed to becoming the preeminent provider of economic development services worldwide. Economic development for only one reason: that the lives of the billions of us worldwide depend completely upon our ability to transform our lives into economic engines capable of growing from an economy of one, where the vast majority of us live, to an economy of many, where fewer than 1% of us live. At Radical U, we know how that gap has come into being and have practiced the art and science of bridging that gap for literally millions of students committed to grow beyond their seeming limitations. Welcome to the story of Radical U. Welcome to the most improbable mountain you're now invited to climb. Getting ready. At Radical U, there's a process in place. We call it the climb. The climb at Radical U arrives in a series of steps we call the Eightfold Path. At the very beginning of the climb, there's a stage essential to the climb we call, quite simply, getting ready. You're actually there right now. This is the very tip of the point of getting ready. It's actually thought of as getting ready to get ready. It's here that we define the climb and why we are committed to guiding millions of you not only to it, but through it. We are committed at Radical U to guiding millions of you not only to it, but to guide you through it, because we've discovered that the climb is an essential part of one's life. Indeed, everyone's life. The climb is where you discover who you are, why you are, what you are, and what you're here to do. You discover all that not just by thinking about it like you've been doing in school from the very first day of your schooling as a kid, all the way through the rest of your schooling through university, or if you never got that far through high school, or if you didn't complete high school, and many of us didn't, through whatever street schooling you've been treated to. No, not just by thinking about it, but by doing it. At Radical You, you're here to do. The truth is that all of your life you've been thinking this and thinking that. Truthfully, it wasn't you who was doing all that thinking. It was more truly it who was doing all that thinking. You wake up every morning thinking, stumble through the whole day thinking, and go to sleep thinking, in dreams, in nightmares, in mumbles and jumbles of thought you very most often can't remember when you wake up. Thinking is a state of mind and habit which possesses every single one of us. Such thinking is like breathing. As with thinking, you don't breathe, it does. So you don't think, you don't breathe, you don't digest your food, you don't create headaches or longing, it does. And if that's true, and it is most definitely true, then what's the difference between the 1% and the 99% of us? If there is a difference, that is. What's the difference between the extremely wealthy and the devastatingly poor or middle class and all those economic grades in between? The difference is intention. That is, the difference between those to whom life happens and to those whose lives happen much differently is the word will, which is at the heart of the word intention. Those words, will and intention, stand at the heart of getting ready, stand at the heart of preparing for the climb. That's what we're doing right now. I'm preparing you for the great climb of your life and inviting you to begin it. Let's take a brief look at the process, what I called earlier the Eightfold Path. When climbing a great mountain or creating a great growing enterprise, there are 5 essential skills required as a base for ascending. Those 5 essential skills are called concentration, discrimination, organization, innovation, and communication. Concentration means being here. If you're not fully here, you're anywhere. Most of us spend our days anywhere rather than right here. If you're not right here as often as required, you will fall off the mountain. Or in the case of your great growing company, you'll never be at the center of it. Until and unless you're at the center of yourself, you cannot be at the center of your climb, at the center of your enterprise, at the center of your great growing company. Having said that, then it becomes obvious that concentration is the first essential skill for leadership. Leadership is the first essential skill for living a purposeful life. Climbing a great mountain or creating a great growing company requires that one develops the skill of concentration. We'll practice concentration a lot at Radical You. Discrimination is the second essential skill. Discrimination is the skill through which you focus your attention, which is the prime product of concentration, upon those things we describe as most important things. In short, to climb a great mountain or to build a great growing company, you have to develop the skill to discriminate between the most important things and the least important things. At Radical You, we'll be practicing discrimination a lot. Because if you're using up the majority of your energy, as most of us do, on the least important things, you'll end up falling off the mountain. At Radical You, we'll spend a lot of our energy choosing to do the most important things instead of burning up all of our energy on chasing all those least important things. Organization is the third essential skill. Organization is the skill through which one puts everything in its rightful place to produce order. Order is critical on the face of the great mountain, as is order critical at the heart of your great growing company. In a great growing company and on the climb of a great mountain, everything has its place and everything must be in its place. On the other hand, disorder runs rampant throughout the world. It is thought that disorder is a natural dysfunction. It is not. Disorder, you'll learn at Radical You, is the product of a dysfunctional mind. Dysfunctional minds create disorder because dysfunctional minds are a product of distraction, poorly made choices, negative discrimination, lack of will, lack of intention, the product of a wrongly disseminated education, which has not provided the essential inspiration, education, training, coaching, mentoring, guidance needed to transform a naturally creative mind into a naturally creative life. At Radical You, we operate with the belief that everything is the product of something. If we can define the something essential to creating the essential skills needed to grow, we can create a life which possesses the ability to grow beyond the ordinary. Organization, therefore, is as critical to growth as concentration and discrimination are. Concentration creates attention. Discrimination creates focus. Organization creates order. Innovation is the fourth essential skill for the climb, or for creating your great growing enterprise. Innovation is seen as the ability to discern the better way. The ability to discern the better way is always required on the face of the climb, or at the heart of the great growing company, because the great mountain and the great growing company are just chock full of surprises. A rock which was supposed to be there isn't there. It's over there instead. A person who said she would be in at 8 is dismayed because not only doesn't she show up at 8, she doesn't come in until Friday. Whoops, now what? Life is just like that. Especially a life committed to achieving stunning results, like the life Steve Jobs set out to pursue at Apple, like the life you and I are setting out to pursue here at Radical You. Innovation is an absolutely essential skill, and like the other 4 essential skills we're discussing right now, can be learned. That's also critical to your understanding of Radical You. Everything you need to know can be learned. As such, Radical You isn't an accident. Radical You is the intentional product of a 40-year mission I set out to pursue in 1977, with the intention of transforming the state of small business worldwide. Which means that the curriculum at Radical You is the product of concentration, discrimination, organization, innovation, and the 5th essential skill I'm about to share with you right now, called communication. That's right. Over the past 40 years, I've been practicing the development of the evolution of an enterprise with literally tens upon tens of thousands of small, struggling businesses throughout the world, so that now, at this very moment, on February 18th, 2018, I could share with you the great outcome of that spectacular journey toward the inspiration, education, training, coaching, mentoring, and guidance of millions of ordinary folks everywhere on this planet to transform the economy of one to an economy of many. But let's go to the 5th essential skill, communication. Communication is the critical exchange of the inspiration, understanding, knowledge, skill, reach, improvement, and experience every human being requires to connect with other human beings, with themselves, with ideas, with beauty, with intention, with creation, with knowledge, with purpose, with life. Yes, with the greatest educator of all time, experience. Every single one of us is given the opportunity to master these 5 essential skills, but primarily through our ascension through them. Starting out with concentration, moving forward to discrimination, moving on to organization, moving much higher to innovation, moving inward and outward to communication. And if you doubt that, and I doubt that you do, be present to the undeniable fact that we're communicating right now. And further, that without communication, our lives would be empty, devoid of meaning, devoid of vitality, devoid of inspiration, devoid of potential, devoid of growth, devoid of possibility. How hopeless such a life would be. How hopeless it is for so many billions of us. How wonderful it is that we're communicating right now about the story of Radical You, about a school we've created to transform the state of economic development worldwide, about a school we've created for you. Let us continue with the Eightfold Path, the product of over 40 years of innovation. Radical You is organized to guide you from where you are right now to where we are all naturally disposed to being, which takes us to the source of us all. If, as it is said, we're born in the image of God, and I believe that to be true, then it means we were all born to create. And what that must mean, if we follow the logic of it all, is that we were all born to create a world fit for God, which becomes then the impetus for each of us to discover our purpose in life. To achieve that end, I believe that the entrepreneurial spirit in each of us is either launched from its spiritual core or its material core. If its spiritual core, from God. If its material core, from man. If our entrepreneurial purpose is launched from its spiritual core, it is created to produce an impersonal outcome, an outcome to add immense value to the lives of other people. If our entrepreneurial purpose is launched from its material core, it is created to produce a personal outcome, an abundance of stuff for the entrepreneur who created it. There's no getting around it. When one looks at people, one sees a whole bevy of billions of us scrambling simply to survive, to get by, to make it as best we can, given the circumstances we find ourselves in. But a purposeful life calls for a lot more than just getting by, than just surviving. A purposeful life calls for creation. That every one of us becomes the artist at the center of our own creation. Yes, just like Steve Jobs was, and Walt Disney, and the not so many like them who envisioned a world unlike the world they were born into, you too have been given that gift, the gift of creation. The problem with the majority of us, however, is that unlike Steve Jobs or Walt Disney, or the not so many others like them, we haven't been taught how to use that gift intentionally. We haven't developed the will to ascend. We haven't been taught the 5 essential skills that Steve Jobs and Walt Disney naturally taught themselves, not only how to think or how to create or how to persist or how to communicate, but how to define their lives in terms rarely understood by the vast majority of us. Indeed, if you've been through a normal education, you've been taught exactly the opposite of that. You've been taught to be ordinary. You've been taught to settle for. You've been taught to wish for less rather than for more. Indeed, you were taught that it's our genetic traits that determine who we become, not our learned traits, not our learned skills. Well, I'm here to tell you something quite different. I'm here to tell you that growing to become someone you wouldn't recognize in your bathroom mirror isn't just a product of luck, it's a product of learning. But the learning I'm talking about isn't something you have to pay a great price to learn. It's not the learning you might get at Harvard or Stanford or MIT. It's not the learning only a small handful of us can take advantage of. It's not the learning of the privileged few. No, the learning we're talking about at Radical U is the learning that's now available to every single human being on the planet. It's the learning we're going to provide you with at Radical U. Here's the thing. You can transform your economic reality, not by learning how to fish, but learning how to learn how to fish. And while you're learning how to learn on our eightfold path, you'll be creating an economic life that will possess meaning, magic, and balance unlike anything you've ever experienced before. Here's exactly how it works. Radical U is an online school. Not a course, mind you, but a school. A school with a curriculum that's available to you wherever you are, on your mobile phone, laptop, or desktop. It's a school which teaches you how to grow a company of one to a company of 1,000 for real. Not an academic product of your mind, but a practical, real-life product operating right there out of your home, out of your office, whether it be an online company or a brick-and-mortar company. It will be a real company producing real revenue, real profits, real income, real results, real outcomes, which can be measured in the real world. In one sense of the word, Radical U is a trade school, but our trade is the trade of entrepreneurship. At Radical U, you're going to learn how to be an honest-to-God entrepreneur, where you learn how to convert creation into innovation by the exercise called action. And you're going to learn how that's done step by step by step by step, by literally growing the company you've got or the company you want to grow from scratch. Makes no difference to us because the process is identically the same. So what does a class at Radical U look like? First of all, it's a class of one. That's right, you're the only one in it. With the exception of your teacher, that is, called your guide, who teaches you in sessions, week by week by week, 52 weeks a year. Those sessions are pre-recorded video sessions. In other words, your guide, called your teacher, is teaching you step by step by step the way I've invented over the past 40 years, how to grow a company of one to a company of 1,000, starting out with a blank piece of paper and beginner's mind. Meaning, starting out at the very beginning to inaugurate the eightfold path we've been referring to here for the past 30 minutes or so. At Radical U, each and every step on the eightfold path is broken down into 8 segments called modules, each segment of which is designed to take you through the essential processes every new entrepreneur must practice and then master to apply them toward the continuous evolution of your great growing company. To practice what I spoke about earlier, the conversion of creativity into innovation through the exercise called action. So that's what we call the curriculum. You become much more familiar with the curriculum as you're introduced to the steps in the process. But allow me to say it works. It's simple. It's not stupidly simple, but it is simple, stupid. You'll also understand the difference between stupidly simple and simple stupid as we move forward in school together. Know this: everyone possesses what's needed to design, build, launch, and grow a great growing company if they want to, are determined to, and are committed to. As we say to every one of our students, if you've got the will, we've got the way. Along with your teacher, your guide, I'm also going to be there in each and every one of your classes, bringing to you in a pre-recorded video what I call the points of light. In your first year at Radical U, there are 52 points of light, one each week, along with the 52 sessions your teacher guide will be instructing you to do in each and every succeeding week of the 52 weeks of your first year. Meaning there's no time out at Radical U. Why should there be? We're building your company for real, and that takes will, and that takes time, and that takes perseverance, and that's all the outcome of the great love you're going to discover as you move forward in this ever-loving process. We think of the points of light as the source for my POV. That's my point of view, which has been instrumental in the great successes we've achieved over the past 40 years with small business owners who've utilized our teaching in the operation and growth of their small businesses. In short, the points of light are primarily brought to you to inspire the evolution of your mindset, toward the evolution of your creativity, toward the evolution of your imagination, toward the evolution of your company of one to your company of 1,000. Coupled with the practical content of your sessions, the points of light put the magic into the outcome of your time with us. But there's one more piece of the puzzle at Radical U. We call that the puzzle itself. Along with my one-to-one videos and your teachers' one-to-one sessions, there are also a co-creating set of complementary elements, including videos, audios, excerpts from my now 32 published books, my live dreaming rooms, my interactions with other students over the years, all integrated within and without the sessions, the points of view, the curriculum we're talking you through to emphasize the reality of what we're bringing to you in your world, to your great growing tiny enterprise, to your knowledge and understanding through application of your exercising your imagination and your will toward the evolution of your company of one to your company of 1,000, again, step by step by step by step. What's so spectacular is that through this entire process, you're going to learn how to learn, not by just thinking, but most important, by doing. Radical U is a doing school. The product of Radical U is a great growing company. To see what I mean, watch the following interview between me and Brian Scudamore, the founder of 1-800-GOT-JUNK, which started out in a pickup truck and is now a 747, a company growing worldwide to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars strong. And then come back and join me for the rest of the story.
Well, thank you for having me, Michael. I'd like to start with a big thank you to you. Those were some nice words you said, but I have to say, teamwork makes the dream work. If it wasn't for your book, I wouldn't have learned all the valuable lessons that I have that got me started on building my business out like a franchise. I didn't anticipate until after reading the E-Myth that my business would one day become a true franchise, and then to follow in the footsteps of those great franchisors like Ray Kroc. We've got a team here that is so excited about the franchise world, and 1-800-GOT-JUNK is translated into 4 brands under the umbrella O2E Brands, ordinary to exceptional. So I guess starting with the story, as you asked, I was in a McDonald's drive-thru in 1989. I saw a beat-up old pickup truck in front of me, plywood sides built up on the box. I looked at that truck and I went, hey, I'm looking for a way to pay for college. I bet I could go out and buy my own truck and start hauling junk. And a week later, I had a company which I called the Rubbish Boys. It was really just me, but I wanted something that sounded bigger and had room for growth. So it was the Rubbish Boys. 8 years into the business, I was learning so much about my business, and it was growing and scaling. And I did a rebrand to the name 1-800-GOT-JUNK. But let me go back in time a little bit. So 4 years into the business, I dropped out of college. I was learning more about running a business. I was learning more about business by running a business versus studying in school. My father, who's a liver transplant surgeon, thought I was off my rocker and totally nuts. Couldn't believe I was quitting to become a full-time junk man. And then once I got out there and really said, listen, I'm going to make you proud, Dad. I'm going to make myself proud and build a business. I started to build slowly but surely from 1 employee, 1 truck, 2 trucks, 3 trucks. 1995, I had 5 trucks, and that's the year that I came across the E-Myth. I was at $500,000 in revenue, 5 trucks strong, but I was missing systems. I didn't even understand what systems and processes were. Then I read your book and I thought, wow, the E-Myth just inspired me. And I'm not a great reader. I don't read very often. I certainly don't make it through books cover to cover, but I read your book twice in one sitting. And what it inspired me to do was start to take everything I did well in the business, put it in 1 page, a 1-page best practice. How do you load the truck? How do you price jobs? How do you answer the phones? How do you deal with customers when there's a problem? How do you market the business? I created an operations manual, which then ultimately led me to franchising my business. And if we fast forward today, we are on track this year for $305 million in revenue. We have, under the O2E Brands umbrella, about another $100 million in revenue across 3 companies: Wow One Day Painting, You Move Me, and Shack Shine. So this O2E franchise company has really allowed us to take the systematization, the power of franchising that we've learned in 1-800-GOT-JUNK, and put it into other spaces in a similar way to what you've done with different books. I'm a big believer that everything has to have meaning. I've often said, make meaning, not money. The money follows. I think too many people get into the entrepreneurial world. They start their own small business. They want to grow a big business because they want to make money. I think that if money is not your prime motivator, you're much more likely to achieve that bonus impact of making an income or creating wealth. But what meaning is to me, it's in the brand name, O2E, ordinary to exceptional. Everything we do is about taking something ordinary, whether it's the ordinary business of junk removal or the ordinary business of window cleaning, gutter cleaning under Shack Shine. We take ordinary businesses and ordinary people and deliver the exceptional. We wow our customers by giving them a level of trust and customer experience that they don't typically experience in the fragmented home service space. And the pride for us comes in that opportunity that we take advantage of here's a customer, they need a job done, let's do it like it's never been done before. I think similar to what you said about the book, I read it and did it. A lot of people, most people, I think, talk a big game. Every customer service company out there says anytime, anywhere, all this ad speak. They promise the world, but they always fall short. I believe the opportunity is to, in an ordinary world, do things with an exceptional bar. And that's why people are attracted to come into our franchise family, is to be a part of what we're building together. We're building something much bigger together than any one of us would have chosen to build alone. And to me, that's our exceptional.
The second half of the story of Radical You. So now you see why we're so excited about the story of Radical You. Because the story of Radical You is the story of Brian Scudamore. It's the story of 1-800-GOT-JUNK and so many more just like him. It's the story of a man who grew a pickup truck into a 747, who grew a tiny one-person job into an internationally successful enterprise. And it's not like that happened suddenly. It didn't. It never does. But after working in his tiny company for some time, Brian Scudamore suddenly learned about working on his tiny company and the huge difference it would make, not only to his company and his growing list of delighted customers, but to his growing list of people employed by Brian. And not only by those incredibly productive people who work for 1-800-GOT-JUNK, but his increasingly growing network of franchisees who loved his business too, because by then it had become their business. You see, Brian has been living the experience of growing a great growing enterprise, utilizing the system I wrote about way back then at the beginning of 1-800, the book called The E-Myth Revisited. As Brian said, he's been living that book. And he's been living that book by doing that book. And that's what I've been doing over these past 40 years, creating the system at the very heart of the E-Myth point of view, so I could teach it to every small business owner on the planet who was inspired to understand what I was sharing with them, what I was writing about so passionately. All those years, all that work, millions of readers, tens of thousands of clients. But still, I was dissatisfied. And I was dissatisfied because I hadn't hit the core element of the search we were pursuing: how to inspire, teach, train, grow, and improve upon the individual small business owner who was a technician suffering from an entrepreneurial seizure. But still, no matter what we did, couldn't break free like Brian Scudamore did, like Brian Scudamore is doing today. So we went 10 steps further. We realized that unless we truly discovered how to awaken the entrepreneur within everyone who was called, we could never transform the state of small business worldwide as we'd set out to do. And to do that, we had to create the revolutionary process we now call the Eightfold Path, and apply it religiously like the U.S. Navy SEALs would, through a grassroots initiative available to everyone who was so moved. But to do that, we had to make it absolutely impossible for anyone to say no. We had to eliminate any obstacle that might stand in the way of you saying, "Yes, Michael, without a doubt, count me in." Allow me to show you how we did that. There are 5 obstacles in the way of individuals who want to grow a small business or sustain the one they've got, who want to transform their economy of one into an economy of many. The first obstacle is trust. How can you trust the expert who's selling you his or her services? Well, that one we've got beat. With over 40 years of incomparable experience and success, the leader of the coaching industry, we created the very first business coaching company way back then in 1977. I've included dozens upon dozens of testimonials from the best of the world's best and everyone else who had done the work we have done, all available to you. And if that isn't enough to garner your trust, well, there's nothing else we can do about it, because we can't prove it to you until you do it. And once you do it, it's already done. No more proof needed. The second obstacle is cost. No doubt about it, professional help is very expensive. The average fee for professional coaching is about $2,000 monthly and more. On the other hand, technical projects are significantly more expensive. To bring aboard a systems specialist in online marketing, lead generation, management, organization development, et al. Will cost a small business owner more than he or she is ever willing to spend or can afford. That's why our most important client, the one we call the smallest of the small, most often struggles without help. They simply can't afford it. That's why we've created the only business school of its kind. Oh, that's right. I hadn't mentioned the school options. Well, there's Harvard Business for a minimum of $73,000 a year, or Stanford at a minimum of $113,000 a year. Sorry, didn't mean to aggravate you. And that's why Radical U is available to everyone for only one payment per year of $479.40. I'm laughing, excuse me, but that's right. Not one payment a month, but one annual payment of $479.40, and you're home free for the entire year with us. 52 weeks a year, 24 hours a day, all for only one tiny payment of $479.40. So we've eliminated the financial obstacle once and for all. That means everybody can join us at Radical U. But that's not all. The third obstacle is time. We beat that one too. Online, all study done in your free time, available 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, step by step by step by step. In short, we come to you. You don't have to come to us. You do this at your own pace, not ours. You learn as you grow. You earn as you learn. The best school on the planet. And finally, the fourth obstacle is the curriculum. Remember what I said earlier? Nothing we do at Radical U is academic. Everything you do at Radical U is to produce something that plays a role in your operating company. Everything you learn, you use. So no wasted time. No wasted effort. You're being taught, trained, coached, mentored, and guided, all toward the end game of creating a company that runs. You're being trained to behave like a great entrepreneur. We've been building small companies into sensational companies for over 40 years. Nobody knows how to do this better than we do. The fifth obstacle is commitment, meaning the staying power to see the climb through. And of course, that means you. Do you have the will to put our way to work for you? Can't tell until you start. But here's the thing, nobody does. Everybody gets distracted from long-term objectives. Everybody gets waylaid from following a higher path. Everybody ends up feeling frustrated that they're not going fast enough, not getting results soon enough. Heck, it took Steve Jobs getting fired by his board of directors to truly move him out of the box he found himself in at Apple, only to come back and rescue it from failure. Every single one of us comes face to face with our loss of faith following a process like the one we're providing you at Radical U. But that's why we're so remarkable and so suited to this task of inspiring you with our 52 points of light, with our special weekly sessions, 52 weeks a year, with our puzzle pieces to remind you of the higher aim of every higher game, to stimulate your Imagineer, as Walt Disney called his creative folks at Disney, to grow beyond where you are, to be inspired to see more than is possible for you to see where you are. In short, that's why at Radical U, we've created a true culture of entrepreneurship, to stoke your fire when it absolutely is dying for the lack of it. In short, we won't let you forget why you're here. We'll remind you with great interviews with folks we call luminaries, like Brian Scudamore, sharing his story with you, with many, many others who have done the very same thing as Brian has, and continues to do, with many, many students of Radical U who will share their stories of overcoming the very same obstacles you're confronted with continuously and much, much more. Remember, Radical U is unlike any school you've ever attended. It's real, it does real things, it helps you do the very same real things each and every one of us at Radical U have done, are doing in this very difficult, challenging world. It's inspiration just being here. So 5 obstacles handled. Are you ready to join us? Are you ready to transform your life? Are you ready to make a huge difference in the world? Well, we at Radical U welcome you to join us. Click here and let the show begin.